Okay, hello and welcome to today's Peer-to-Peer Professional Forum webinar, Stewarding Your DIY Donors. I'm Peter Panapento, Principal for Panapento Strategies and Content Director for the Peer-to-Peer Professional Forum. I'll be the host for today's webinar on behalf of the Peer-to-Peer Forum, and I want to thank you all for joining us today. Do-it-yourself fundraising is one of the hottest trends in peer-to-peer. Over the course of the past couple of years, we've spoken with dozens of organizations that have launched or are considering launching DIY programs. Many of them see DIY as a way to extend their current peer-to-peer programs and reach a new set of fundraisers who want to support their favorite organizations in new ways. Other groups are doing it in direct response to requests that they're getting from their existing donors who are saying that they want to try new things. But no matter what the reason, groups that are starting DIY have a similar refrain. They're just trying to figure it out. While DIY campaigns have many similarities to traditional peer-to-peer campaigns, there are some important differences. And because many of these programs are so new, there aren't as many established best practices as there might be in the coming months and years. With that in mind, we're hoping to solve that problem with, in part through our conversation today with Kate Nare, who's the Digital Program Manager for World Vision USA. Kate and I have been having a few conversations recently about World Vision's experiments with DIY, particularly around its work in stewarding their fundraisers that are taking part in DIY right now. And we're going to talk quite a bit about that topic over the next hour or so, with the idea that you can learn from some of what she's been experiencing, and also that we can have an interesting conversation at the end where we can hear your questions and ideas. But before we get started with that, I wanted to give Kate an opportunity to introduce herself and to tell us a bit about World Vision and the work it's doing in DIY. Kate, welcome, and thanks for agreeing to join us today.
Thanks so much, Peter, for that introduction. I really appreciate it. Hi, everyone on the phone. I'm really excited to be here and talk about this topic, and especially to share what we've learned in the DIY space in peer-to-peer over the past couple years. So before we get started, I wanted to share a little bit about myself and who I am, the person who is speaking to you guys today. So my name is Kate Nare, and I was brought on board in May of 2014 to start World Vision's first DIY peer-to-peer program. So here's a picture of me on the left. Back in June, I ran the Seattle Rock and Roll Half Marathon. So it was a great opportunity to dive into one of our peer-to-peer programs and be a fundraiser, see the experience, get the treatment, really understand it. It was so much fun, as you can tell from this photo. Peter, I think, asked me to send me a professional photo, but I was like, yeah, this one's more fun, so I'm going to have this one. You can see on my arm there is my list of my donors. I raised enough funds to give 60 kids clean water for life. So it was really fun, really empowering event, as I'm sure you all have empowering events as well. And then on the right there, that's my husband, Jake, and my daughter, Alice. She's 14 months old, and that's us in Gig Harbor. World Vision is located in Federal Way in Washington, so that's where I'm located. And then a little bit about World Vision for those of you who might have not heard of World Vision or be familiar with our work. We work in nearly 100 countries. We're a pretty big international nonprofit. We also have 46,000 staff globally. We're Christian, we're child-focused, and we're community-focused. And our main product is child sponsorship. So for $39 a month, you can sponsor a child, and those donations go to the community as a whole, and then as a donor, you have a relationship with the child. You send them letters and photos, and then they send you back progress reports about how they're doing. So that's our main product, but we also have a bunch of other ways that people can get involved and give. And so sometimes in the marketing world, it's hard because we have so many great causes at World Vision. So people can give to child protection, to health, clean water, food, education, disaster relief. Those are all things we're really good at. But when it comes down to narrowing down to one specific cause, it's been interesting to see how peer-to-peer DIY can really cater to that, because people can tap into a specific cause that they really are passionate about and want to own and want to fundraise for. So that's a little bit of what I'll be talking about today. And then on the peer-to-peer side, so we have 3 programs at World Vision in the peer-to-peer space. They all run on Donor Drive, And our first one is Team World Vision, which I mentioned earlier. That's our Walk, Run, Ride program. They are 10 years old, celebrating their 10-year anniversary this year. They're a multi-million-dollar channel, and their main location, their headquarters is out in Chicago, but they have staff all over the U.S., and it's great because we call them foot soldiers, on the ground. They're able to go into the churches, go into the spaces where people are, get them fired up about running their first marathon, which a lot of people think that, oh, this is impossible, this is hard to do, I have bad knees, or whatever the reason, but they get them fired up, combine that with fundraising, and then really change people's lives. So that's a really inspiring program. We also have our youth program. It's called 30-Hour Famine, and this is a program designed for youth pastors. It really meets a need. Youth pastors are looking for curriculum or fun ideas to do with their students. And so this is a program that involves a toolkit. People can sign up online to have their churches involved, and then they fundraise to provide food for children in Africa. And the concept is that the students will fast for 30 hours, and it's experiential marketing. You're understanding what it's like for a child in the field to be going without food for that long. So you do the famine, and there's a whole toolkit with activities and fun things to kind of get you through that time where you aren't eating. So that program is 25 years old, and it's on Donor Drive as well. And then the one we're going to be focusing on today is our DIY peer-to-peer program. So this is our newest program. It launched about 2 years ago in June 2014. And I've been managing it since then. And it really was born out of the idea that, okay, we have the Walk, Run, Ride program, we have this youth program. What about all the other people who are coming to us wanting to fundraise for their birthdays or for a specific cause like clean water or health or childcare? Where do we put those people, and what kind of program can we build for them? So that need and that desire is how the DIY program was born. And as Peter mentioned earlier, it's new territory. We've been learning as we go. And so hopefully I can share some important insights with you guys today about what we've learned so far and some things that have really worked for us, because it is a different space than the Walk, Run, Ride space. And then this is an example of our homepage, our DIY homepage. So you can see there when people come, they can choose the cause that they're passionate about. They can also choose the event that they might be, have a birthday coming up anyway, or a memorial, or a wedding, and then connect that cause with the event that they have coming up. So our most popular events right now are emergencies. So our refugee crisis page is what we call a slow burn emergency, because the refugee crisis is going on for a while. That has been our most popular event, and I'll speak a little bit more about that later. We also just set up a page for Hurricane Matthew, if you guys heard about it, hitting Haiti, and now I believe it's into the U.S. So being able to quickly spin up pages and get the word out, people really have a heart for this and want to fundraise for crises. Clean water is another popular one as well as our farm animals campaign, and I'll be talking about those more in a little bit.
Great, Kate. Well, that's a great intro, and I think that really spells out how this fits in with the rest of your peer-to-peer campaigns. And one thing we've been noting as we've been talking is just how there are some real differences in how you conduct stewardship with DIY donors and fundraisers compared with traditional peer-to-peer fundraisers. Can you talk a little bit about the differences you've noticed as you've been doing that?
Yes, definitely. DIY is much different than the Walk, Run, Ride space. So we had this great experience with Team World Vision and been running for 10 years, and so we were able to really hone in on what is important, what works, what's that secret recipe for success there. So DIY was a brand new space, and we definitely had to think about the differences and the challenges that come along with that. So the biggest one, I always tell Team World Vision, I'm so envious of them because they always have an end date, right? So this weekend is the Chicago Marathon, so maybe some of you on the phone are running it. It's Team World Vision's biggest event of the year, hundreds of runners, it's really exciting. And so what they're able to do is backdate their communications out from that event. So their email communications, their text messages, the postcards that they send, all of that encouragement that you really use to coach people is built in. In the DIY space, let's say someone is fundraising for clean water for their birthday. Everyone has a different birthday, so all the end dates and the goals are going to be different for each person. So it makes it trickier to have that secret sauce of the coaching and the treatment stream set up. So I'll talk in a little bit about how we've gotten around that, some tricky ways. Also, there's no physical event. So you guys saw that picture earlier of me running the Team World Vision race. Every Saturday we would get together and we'd train, and the Team World Vision staff would pump us up and get us excited and remind us why we're running to give children in poverty clean water. And then the actual event itself, there was hundreds of people wearing orange on the course. It was very exciting, building this momentum. Well, in the DIY space, everyone is doing their own thing. So you don't necessarily have a physical event or physical space where people are meeting. So there's that challenge. And to that end, it's a little bit harder to build community. So you can do it digitally, you can do it in the social space, but as far as face-to-face or having that one-on-one connection, it's definitely harder to do that. And then in our case, we have many different causes and events. With Team World Vision, you're raising funds for clean water. $50 gives someone clean water for life. That's a very clear value proposition. For the 30-hour famine, you're raising funds to help kids in Africa get food. It's a very clear value proposition. In the DIY space, we have a bunch of different causes people can fundraise for. And so really making sure our value propositions for the refugee crisis, for water, for child protection, for health are very clear and compelling, and that people can take it on and make it their own. So those are the main differences and challenges that we've experienced in this space.
Okay, so against that, then, how are you, and what have you learned about creating messages and communications that, get those supporters to take action around some of these differences and challenges?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll share with you guys our recipe for DIY success. And we've had lots of sit-downs with our Team World Vision staff, our 30-hour famine staff, even people in the industry to be like, what is at its core the perfect recipe if you're trying to have peer-to-peer success? And so this is what we've come up with. There's 3 slides that I'm going to share. So to start with, you need to have your core really healthy. So these are the building blocks that you can use when you're looking to start your DIY program. So first of all is a really good program design, implementation, and support, technical enablement, and ongoing support, and marketing and sales. So for us, we went with Donor Drive as our platform, and they are able to provide us with the support that we need. So that's the technical part of it. I want to touch on marketing and sales in particular. So as you guys know, if you can't get that megaphone of getting people in the door landing page, then you won't have a successful program. So it's interesting because when we first started DIY, we assumed that our own donors would be the ones that would be setting up pages. So if someone donates to World Vision, and if they sponsor a child, then presumably they're really passionate about our mission, because sponsorship is such a high consideration product, so people are willing to invest their treasure right into World Vision. And so to set up a P2P fundraising page, to invest your time and your talent, goes one step further. So we initially started by emailing and on social media, reaching out to our current supporters. But what we found, interestingly enough, is people are finding us who might not necessarily even know about World Vision. So, for example, our Syrian refugee campaign to help the refugee crisis. When we look at our Google Analytics, people are actually finding us through Google organically. So we really beefed up the SEO on our page so that if someone is typing in, how do I fundraise to help refugees, our page will come up and they can find us and they can set up a page. So we compared the fundraisers that we have currently for the refugee crisis to our donor base, and we found that a lot of new people were coming in who weren't on our donor list already. So I want to encourage you that it can be a great way to get new prospects in the door and then craft a treatment stream to try to get them to become donors in themselves. That was a really big lesson that we learned. So those three things are the core building blocks to have a really steady program when you're first starting. But you also have to consider a couple ingredients that you need to throw in there. So to have a successful DIY campaign, you want to make sure that you're fundraising for a cause and that it's very specific and something that people can get behind. So make sure you're giving people materials that explain what the problem is, explain what you're trying to solve so that they can really take it on and own it themselves. Clear timelines and deadlines. We touched on this earlier, so this is definitely critical. If you just have people set up a campaign and have it go on for a while, we really see a lot of drop-off with that and a lot of people not fully being engaged if there isn't a clear timeline and deadline. So I'll explain a little bit how we get around that. Having a challenge or event in place, something fun that people can use, or in your toolkit, examples for events that people can hold to try to get people involved. Building that sense of community, whether it be digital or in person, however you choose to do that, can be important as well. And then we really thought about meeting people at a place in their lives. So if someone is going one step further to set up a fundraising page, that takes time, right? To set up a page, to be committed, to reach out to your friends and family, to have them catch the vision and get involved. And so, a lot of people, our core demographic is moms with kids, and so they probably don't have a lot of time to, set up a fundraising page and do this. So we want to make it ridiculously easy for them to set up a page, and then also ridiculously easy for people to donate as well. And so, we thought about meeting people where they're at in their lives, like, okay, would someone be like waiting in line, at Starbucks to get a coffee, something like that. So we want to make sure if she's on her phone and she's asked to set up a fundraising event, that the platform we're using is responsive, it's mobile friendly, so she can quickly and easily do that on her phone, set up her page, put in her profile picture, write her personal testimony, and boom, it's there. So marketing and sales, like I said before, that's really important. Make sure that you know the ways that you're marketing out to the public and know the segment and the audience that you're trying to reach out to. And then incentives. We've also seen a lot of success with using this through Team Roll Vision. So when I was running the Seattle Rock and Roll Half, when I hit my first milestone, I got orange shoelaces in the mail, and a little postcard saying, "Good job, you've helped someone get clean water for life." And so just getting that recognition was very encouraging, and people say that they just love having something physical that they can wear or they can put on their fridge, something they can talk about. So having incentives at each of the milestones really encourages people and can give that extra oomph for them to go to the next milestone. And there's just great psychology behind that. So if you can't afford it, incentives are great. Even something small like a postcard, saying "Great job, keep going, you're doing awesome," with like a beautiful photo on it that they can put on their fridge or their desk at work is great. And then the third thing, the recipe for success, is tapping into people's emotions. So to get people to really be motivated to do this, they really have to own it and believe that they can make a difference. So if I'm raising money for clean water for my birthday, and my goal is 1,000, I really have to believe that I can hit that, and that when I do that, that someone in the field will get clean water. So make sure that you're giving your fundraisers the tools they need to understand what they're doing really is powerful and making a difference. Has to be fun, so make sure fundraising isn't a chore. It's definitely hard to fundraise, but make sure all your collateral and things you're sending people are fun, and has an element of challenge as well. So in one of our emails, the subject line is, "We get it, fundraising is hard, we just kind of come out and say it," and then in the body of the email it explains some different ways you can get around that that are fun. One-to-one impact, so explaining, again, that value proposition we have with Team Roll Vision, so $50 gives someone clean water for life. If I'm doing this, what's the impact for someone in the field? We talk about like coaching people, so having that fundraiser feel like someone cares for them, someone is patting them on the back, make them feel like a rock star, make them feel awesome, make them feel like they aren't doing this alone. So those principles go along with the walk, run, ride space as well, but you can certainly carry them over into the DIY space. And so here's an example of that coaching I was talking about. So this is our fundraiser experience. And so our first step is that promotion, that sales and marketing that's so critical. So for us, we get the word out through our website, through our social media, through SEO, donor communications. So we have e-news, blogs, emails, direct mail pieces, our magazine, things like that. And then if there's a particular campaign going on, we'll make sure that P2P is woven into that. So for example, Hurricane Matthew, just hit on Monday or Tuesday morning, I'm sorry, in Haiti. And so people can donate or they can set up a fundraising page, making sure that that's an option. So step 2 is the registration, making it ridiculously easy. Also giving them an option to give the first gift. That's a great way to get people on. If they aren't already, and then also get some teeth in the game, so if they've given a certain amount, it's easier for them to ask other people, join me in helping me hit my goal. And then set up so they can join a team if they want to, and then just make it really easy. Step 3, the experience that they go through. So after they've signed up to become a fundraiser, depending on what platform you use, it's great if they can have a dashboard that they can keep going back to. And this is where you can really plug in resources like shareable social images, video links are great if you have some good videos that people can share, fundraising 101 tips, things like that are great to put on the dashboard. And if you're able to, what we've done is we've worked with a vendor to set up text messages. So if you opt in, then we can send you weekly text messages encouraging you. Welcome calls is something that we've set up with our call center, so they have a script and I send them a file of people who have signed up for a campaign. They call them, welcome them, thank them for signing up their campaign, ask if they have any questions. And then also I get a little bit of feedback, so asking them if they had any trouble spots, any hang-ups, and if I get enough of those, then I can go in and kind of tweak the experience and make sure it's seamless. Milestone emails, so putting those in, scheduled notifications that people have hit 50% of their goal, 100% of their goal, giving them those pat on the back emails. Social share options, toolkit, and postcards. So all of these are what we found to be a variety of ways you can reach out to people. So maybe if their welcome call went to voicemail, at least they're still getting a postcard or that email. So having multiple ways to reach out to people and encourage them, as many as you can in digital and non-digital spaces is really ideal.
Hey, Kate, I have a quick question
sure.
before we move on that.
Sure.
The milestone emails, that really seems like one where there might be a difference with recognizing when those milestones are compared to a regular, more traditional peer-to-peer campaign. Have you found, through your experience so far, any difference or what types of milestones seem to really work well in terms of, what to recognize and when to send and communicate with folks who are doing DIY?
Yeah, definitely. So because there isn't that end date, that you have with a race, it's different in the DIY space. So how I've gotten around that is I'll set it up where, at least in Donor Drive, there's the technical capability for the system to know if someone hasn't set up or personalize their fundraising page. So they can be kicked out an email in the first 48 hours. Hey, we noticed you set up a page. You'll probably raise more money if you take a selfie video and put on your page, or if you add your profile picture, add your particular reason for fundraising to your page. So that's one way. And then also we can set up notifications for if people have hit 50% of their goal, and then if they've hit 100% of their goal. With the 100% ones, we definitely say good job, and then ask people to consider raising their goal amount if they want, so they can keep fundraising. So that's what we've seen work for us in that space.
Thanks.
Yeah, and so the biggest difference is between DIY and the walk, run, ride is that goal, that end date, right? And so how we've gotten around that in the DIY space is tapping into natural holidays or days in the year that exist already that could be a natural way to lead up to someone hitting their goal. So birthday is an obvious one. If someone's birthday is coming up, that would be the end date. But we've also tapped into Giving Tuesday, which I'll talk about in a little bit and share our plan for that. Christmas, end of year, New Year's, New Year resolution, and then for our refugee crisis campaign, we actually tapped into International Refugee Day. So here's an example of our refugee crisis page, and here's a fundraiser. And so June 20th this last year was World Refugee Day. And so backing out of that a month and a half, we created a communication plan. So we pulled the list of people who are actively fundraising, and we sent them an email letting them know the day was coming up and encouraging them to try to hit their goal by that date. So we sent them sample emails they could send to people. We did a social media plan. So here's an example of one of the shareable images that people could post on Facebook. I then gave them sample Facebook and Twitter posts they could post every week leading up to that date. And then we also did welcome calls and text messages as well. So again, having that diversity of the ways that you can reach out to fundraisers, but then also how fundraisers can reach out to people and encouraging them is really important. And this worked well. We had 11% of the people that were fundraising hit their goal. So we're definitely going to try it again next year as a natural kind of end date for people for hitting their goal. Similarly, for Christmas this year, one of our big P2P DIY campaigns is farm animals. So people can try to raise $2,362 to build a farm, basically. So cows, chickens, pigs, all that stuff. It's really fun. We see a lot of people coming back every year to do it, and it's something that kids can do with their moms, moms and dads, and so it really speaks to our core demographic. It's a fun one. So we're starting to promote this right now, actually, and same thing, having Giving Tuesday be the end date. So try to hit your goal by Giving Tuesday, November 29th, is our call to action with that. And the idea is Giving Tuesday has been growing, every year, and so it's growing to household name. For charities, it's becoming more popular to use it as a fundraising day, and the idea is that people are probably, fatigued from Black Friday and Cyber Monday and probably spent a lot of money. So, here's your day to give back after, spending all that money. And so really tapping into that, and then people get really busy once the holidays hit too. So we've found that this day works better for us. We'll still do Christmas and end of year things as well, but this is a good segue into the holiday season for us. So for farm animals, social media plan, sample posts, shareable images, getting those out to fundraisers so they can have ways to talk about the causes that they're passionate about. Welcome calls, text message stream, emails, shareable videos, and photos. So we're implementing this again this year. And yeah, again, just reaching out to our core segment, having a variety of ways of reaching out to people. I also wanted to mention it's a good way to re-engage past fundraisers. So let's say you had an event in February, and people hit their goal, you can reach out to them again and see if they'll do this farm animals campaign or whatever works for your organization. So we have a kit team at World Vision, and what they do is work with companies to build kits, like physical kits with supplies that they can send to people in the field. And so they fundraise for those kits. So if someone did a kit in February, then you want to wait a while, but then in December you could see if that company would want to raise funds for farm animals. So it can be a good way to keep people engaged and continually involved in that fundraising effort instead of just doing it one time and leaving and not coming back.
Right. So part of what you alluded to earlier as one of the key ingredients of this is really creating materials that help supporters understand how to tell your story and how to actually go out and raise money for you. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you're doing that and what you've learned along the way with testing those toolkits and messages.
Yeah, definitely. So we've found that, especially in the DIY space, when you have to be digital because there isn't that physical event where you're meeting with people and can hand things out, we have to have good digital creative that we can give to people that clearly explains the message. And it makes it scalable too. You know, I'm the only one on our DIY team, so it makes it scalable. Here's an example. This is fresh off the press. I just got this yesterday, actually. This is our poster that we're going to have this year in our toolkit. So share big dreams. This Christmas is our theme for Christmas. And we have that on all our collateral throughout World Vision. And so it's tapping into that. And then this is a poster that someone in a corporation could put up, you know, in their lunchroom if they're fundraising for farm animals, or someone can put up at their church, or someone can put up at their school. So we've tried to make it diverse enough that people has a thermometer on there, so people can put in what their goal is, their start and their end dates, things like that. So we also have shareable social media images that are still in the works. We have a fundraising 101 toolkit, so that explains best practices for fundraising. Poster that we have right here, the thank you flyers, so people can hand out flyers after people give, that explains who World Vision is and has our website on there so people can visit it afterward if they want to continue to give. And then what we're doing this year for recognition, with our corporate employee giving program, we have these fun little stickers that say, you know, I helped the child in need this Christmas. And so the idea is if a corporation is doing an event to raise funds for goats, let's say, after someone donates, they can put this sticker on, similar to I voted, you know, and then walk around the office and other people can see it and think, I wonder what that is, you know, and then they can explain where they can go online and donate. So having that physical recognition, we believe, is a good component as well, and then helps for branding and getting your message out and spreading the word. So this is our first year trying that, so we'll see how that does. And then part of this digital coaching, so if you're not there in person to see, you know, each person that's doing your DIY event, you just want to make sure you get the message across that they should really make it personal. So this photo here, we did a fundraising campaign for the Nepal earthquake victims last year in 2015, and here's a class that raised funds to help the victims. And so it's really important to share your story, you know, make sure fundraisers are sharing why this is important to them. Photos and videos perform better on Facebook. That's what we've seen. If people are able to film a selfie video of themselves, people are usually able to fundraise double the amount than if they didn't have a video at all. So we really encourage people to do that in all of our messaging across the board. Again, make them feel like a rock star, make them feel like they can do this. And then we also share the 6 fundamentals of fundraising. And so, you know, remember your reason why you're doing this. Give them those 3 talking points that they can easily share with anyone. Learn a little, you know, so if you need to give them even more than those 3 talking points, like dive in. If they need to, you know, do a trip to the field or, you know, have more resources, then make sure that's available to them if they want it. Encourage people to be bold when they ask. Never hold back. You know, you just never know when someone's going to, you know, come out of the woodwork and give and help you reach your goal. So again, we encourage people to be bold through the emails that we send out to fundraisers, the text messages, the welcome calls, all of that message is given throughout. Encouraging people to widen their circle, so, you know, make a list of 20 people you know, and then, you know, 30 people you might kind of know but might want to give or be passionate about your cause. Encourage fundraisers to have high expectations, and then also express your gratitude. So we always tell people, write handwritten thank you notes if you can after someone's donated. That really goes a long way. Or one thing I like to do when I'm fundraising is I'll tag people on Facebook. So I'll say, you know, thanks Peter for giving me $50 to my campaign, and I'll tag Peter, and then everyone on Peter's wall, you know, can see that. So that can be another tool to help people express gratitude. And then just want to give you guys some examples. We have seen amazing creativity through our DIY fundraisers. This is the best part of my job. I absolutely love hearing people's hearts, people's stories poured out on the page. you start a program like this and you're like, will they come? Will it just be crickets? But just to see people grasping on to this peer-to-peer DIY experience and making it their own is amazing. It just blows my mind. So we've seen piano recitals for clean water. There's a couple girls down in LA that were doing that. I'm going to tell the story in a second about this family who collected socks for refugees. We've seen kids going around the neighborhood doing chores for clean water, weddings for child protection, birthdays for health, company competitions for earthquake relief. So for the Nepal earthquake, we had a company that had the IT department versus HR versus marketing, trying to raise funds. So that was fun. This family right here is the Brissette family. They used to live in Syria. They're American, but they used to live in Syria. Now they're in Sarajevo. And when the news hit, about the refugee crisis, they really want to do something about it because they knew people over there still. So their kids went to their school and they collected socks. They heard that socks were the #1 thing that the refugee children needed, especially in the cold winters. Their feet were getting cold. So they did a sock drive. And then in tandem with that, they also did a fundraising page and raised $1,000 for Syrian refugees. So really, really great story. And then here they are on the right, passing out the socks to some refugees. So really seeing people's hearts, bleed for this crisis. And then this is one of our major donors, Sherry Funk. She really took to the peer-to-peer platform, just loved it. She went to the field and came back and immediately wanted to do something. So we encouraged her to set up a page, which she did, and she used her 60th birthday to raise funds for clean water. So it was $60,000 for her 60th, and you can see on the right there she is with her birthday cake with that's a hut there and clean water's flowing, and so she really got into it. And she actually started talking about building community. She started a Facebook group for people who are fundraising for clean water so they can share ideas and say what's worked, what hasn't. We've also had calls with her just to get her feedback on her experience, what she thinks we could do better. So just making sure we're close to the fundraisers, tapping into what's worked well for them, and then improving our program based off of that. And she just fundraised this last year again for clean water. She did a trip down Route 66 and had a fun social campaign as she went. So she's great. And then Tyler is another fundraiser. He was, I believe, 12 years old. He was in his bed reading the World Vision gift catalog and could not believe that there's people in the world who don't have access to clean water. And he was reading about all the diseases that kids can have, how they have to walk far to get clean water, and it just blew his mind. So he told his mom that he wanted to start fundraising to give kids clean water. So he started these lemonade stands, which you can see right here. And he also sells jewelry as well. He makes these little beaded bracelets and sells them. He lives in Sacramento, and he'll have stands around the area, or he'll go to his church. And he's raised upward of $15,000 for clean water. So again, it's just so inspiring, mother and child working together to raise funds, and just being inspired by that cause and taking it on and really owning it as their own. It's really amazing. And that's my daughter. I just had to plug her in there.
Certainly inspires me to want to ask some questions for sure. She's a cutie. So we've had a few questions come in already, and thank you for walking us through all of that, Kate. I think that was really instructive and helpful, and I know it actually sparked some questions for me, as I know it has for some others out there too. Mm-hmm. So I want to encourage folks to definitely send in their questions. Feel free. We have about 20 minutes left. And we do have a few that have come in already, so we'll start with those. The first is asking whether you have any different approaches to stewarding donors at different fundraising levels. Folks who are raising a few $100s versus folks who are committing to raising thousands of dollars. Is there a different approach that you're taking at all?
Definitely. So that major donor example I gave about Sherry, so World Vision has major donor reps across the country, and so because it's just me, I need to make our DIY program scalable. So our first year we really evangelized, if you will, internally to all of our channels. So our major donor groups, we did a road show. We're like, this is the DIY platform we have. here's a toolkit for your major donors. If you are taking them to the field, you know, right at that moment when they're in that village in Africa is when it's going to click, they're going to get excited, they're going to be on fire, they're going to want to do something. So this should be a tool in your toolbox. You know, not every major donor is, you know, going to be tech savvy or, you know, willing to fundraise and go out to their friends. But we've seen a lot who are and who want to really their story, their photos on a page, and reach out to their friends and family who are also, you know, high net worth donors as well, and then they become prospects for you. So it's a great space that we really want to keep growing, and so I make sure to educate our major donor reps on this platform and the use of it, and that way it's scalable, so they're able to help them set up a page instead of, you know, me having to set up a bunch of different pages. And so that's how we handle the major donors. And then the rest of our campaigns are mainly mass. People can set whatever goal they want, but I would say the major donor reps are who we work with for those who are able to raise more. We had a group go out to Kenya a couple years ago, and they raised $120,000 for water in Africa for some wells. So it's definitely has a lot of potential, things we can keep growing. We're also working on our influencer strategy as well, which I didn't mention, but looking at the crowdfunding aspect of it. So could you have an influencer go up against another influencer, do a competition, you know, crowdfunding competition, who can raise the most, you know, for a certain cause, things like that. So we're definitely looking at that space as well, and that would be different, you know, than the individual fundraisers that I've shown today.
Great, interesting. We're actually getting a number of questions coming in now. So you know, as always, DIY topics tend to really draw some great questions. You mentioned earlier, and we've gotten a few questions on this, about using text messages and that you work with a vendor on that. Can you explain a little bit more about how that works and what types of messages people respond to, and you know, what kind of response you're getting from that?
Oh, sure. So the vendor we work with, it's called Mobile Commons, and it plugs in with Donor Drive, and as people are setting up their fundraising page, they have the option to check a box, and that means that they're opted into this text message stream. So on my end, I have to write out the copy for it, and it's really neat, actually. You can set it up so that each week at a certain time, you know, you can designate the time, they get a text message, and so you can, you know, we include stories from the field, you know, little anecdote, a lot of links you can click through to read more, videos, photos, let's see, you know, just words of encouragement like, oh, are you having a bad fundraising day? You know, like, here's a tip that could help you, you know, like, make a list of 10 people and call them. Be bold, follow up with people. A lot of times people are hesitant to ask again, you know, but if you just ask a couple more times from, you know, that one aunt, they'll be like, oh, I just, you know, forgot and I meant to give to you. So tips like that, tips, photos, videos, yeah, are super encouraging for people.
I had myself on mute. I was talking and nobody could hear me. I have had a couple questions about the conversion of DIY fundraisers and donors, and how you integrate them into other activities and other fundraising campaigns there after their campaigns are over. How have you been doing with the conversion, and what lessons are you learning on that front?
Yeah, so we haven't done too much with that. We do send out, after people have created their fundraising campaign, whatever it is, and it's done, we do encourage them to fundraise for their birthday, because everyone has a birthday. So that's something that's a logical next step. Kind of like what I was talking about with the kits earlier, if someone's doing a program already with World Vision, then we try to have peer-to-peer be a logical next step. As our celebrity and influencer strategy, as we're building that out, you know, with celebrities, if they've, you know, tweeted about us or written a Facebook post, you know, what could be a logical next step? Would they be willing to do a peer-to-peer campaign? So it really depends on where the fundraiser is in their journey. And we haven't gotten perfect at it, but I would say that birthday is something we can easily offer to people because we know that everyone has a birthday, and they're going to be, celebrating. It'll be coming up, and then they can choose whatever cause they want to fundraise for that.
Great. Here's a pretty detailed question that I think I'm going to read the whole thing up because I think it speaks to something that a lot of folks in peer-to-peer are experiencing, both with DIY fundraisers, but also with their more traditional participants too. Any tricks for getting participants to fundraise? Many of our supporters are enthusiastic at first, but then never actually fundraise.
Yeah.
How do you get them started, and have you found that, what percentage of folks who actually create these campaigns are actually out there fundraising?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a challenge. We have a lot of people who set up pages, but their thermometer's at 0. They haven't raised anything. So that's definitely something that we continually try to improve. We do know that if people don't personalize their page within the first 48 hours, they probably aren't likely to utilize their page or ever do that. So that's why we try to have the scheduled notifications in there to let people know as a reminder. So this donor drive can know if people haven't customized their page, so we can send them a message saying, hey, we just noticed you haven't customized your page yet. Just a reminder to go in and do that, and then that will kick an email out to them. Also, after people set up their fundraising page, on the confirmation thank you page, we immediately list 3 things people can do right away. So one of our messages is get rid of that goose egg, give to yourself so that it's not just sitting at 0. Give yourself that first $50 donation. Second thing is to customize your page. Tell them to put in their profile picture. Videos of yourself, selfie video tends to raise twice as much, so get that selfie video up there. Get your personal story up there. We have default content, but it looks better if they have their own personal story up there, And then we encourage people to just share it out like crazy over social, over email, make a list of 10 to 20 people and contact them. If they can get that momentum going right away, it's a lot easier, and people, as you know, don't have a lot of time these days. So if it's really ridiculously easy for them to just read that on the page and then just go and act in that moment, that's when we see people hitting their goals and being active with fundraising. If people wait longer than those 48 hours, then forget it. They're probably, maybe they were interested, but they just aren't gonna fundraise.
Interesting, very interesting. So have you found that you have a lot of crossover between donors who participate in your traditional peer-to-peer campaigns and DIY, or are you getting a whole new set of people to get engaged in the DIY portion of your fundraising?
That's a really interesting question. I should compare our Team World Vision runners with our DIY. I'm sure there's some crossover. And we've talked about, after someone runs a race, let's say they run it in March, then maybe in November ask them to do a DIY fundraising event. So that's a great question. And I will say again, we are having people come in just by searching organically for fundraising platforms and finding us and setting up their campaign. So we're having brand new people come in, which is great. But yeah, no, it's a good idea. I'll have to follow up with Team World Vision on that.
Yeah, did you actually set a goal when you created DIY that you were going to appeal to a certain type of person or donor, or is it just kind of organically emerged?
Yeah, no, when we started out, it was brand new, so we just didn't know at all. So we've definitely been really rigorous about looking at our data about who our core segment is. So now that we've been alive for 2.5 years, we're able to have that and know our core segment is people 35 to 54, typically moms or women, with kids. So we're able to target those people more easily. But when we were first starting, I think we really thought that our donors, our existing donors, were going to be the people who are doing this because they're already invested, which, we definitely do have some people like that. But with our refugee campaign, we're having brand new people come in. So it's really an opportunity to get new prospects in the door for us.
Here's another interesting question. Do you have donors that are already taking a part in an existing physical event and then are deciding to fundraise for you because they're taking part, or is it the other way around where they want to raise money for you and they're kind of creating their own events as a result of that?
That's a good question. In the DIY space, I think people are more creating their own events. So the piano recital example, they put on a fundraising night. They did their piano recital to fundraise for clean water. So I feel like people are creating events to fundraise as opposed to events like already going on that they'd fundraise for. That's what I'm seeing the most.
Great. As we, and folks, there's still opportunities to get your questions in, so please feel free if we haven't addressed one of yours already, or if you've thought of one that you haven't shared yet. When we were looking back at some of the pages that you use to communicate with fundraisers, it really appeared as though you kept the messages pretty short and tight and the words small and the calls to action pretty simple. Can you talk a little bit about just your overall theory of communicating with folks? What are some of the things that World Vision and you try to do to make sure that you're communicating clearly and effectively with folks beyond just timing the messages? What are some best practices that you have in terms of just being really effective in talking to people?
Definitely. So we know that I think it's 80% of our users are viewing our website on mobile. And so we want to make sure that all of our messages on our landing pages, all of our emails are very succinct and to the point and aren't super wordy. So there's places for that where you can build it out more, but I want to make sure on that landing page where I'm trying to convert someone to become a fundraiser, it's really clear. So we created a page really quickly Tuesday, or I guess I should say Monday night, for Hurricane Matthew, which hit Tuesday morning in Haiti. And so I wanted to make sure I had some information about what we knew was going on there. But so a little bit of context, I want to make sure I put the value proposition in there, so letting people know if you set up a fundraiser for Hurricane Matthew, you're going to be helping to fund things like jugs of clean water, blankets, medical help, so exactly what people's money is going towards. So I always make sure that's in there. And then I make sure I list out how you set up your fundraising page, so people, sometimes people when they see a form, they're like, oh man, this is going to take me a long time. And so I make sure to say, no, it's simple, it's easy, you just go through these 4 steps and boom, your page is set up. So again, just keeping it really succinct, but making sure I always have those ingredients on the page. We've seen that makes the biggest difference. And then when I'm setting up a page really quickly, I can copy from a past event. So for Hurricane Matthew, little behind the scenes here, I copied from our Nepal earthquake event because I had already had that formula in place, and so I could just swap out, some of the words that I had, and then put in the copy specifically what we were doing in Haiti. So it allows you to quickly spin up a page if you need to do that, or if you have multiple events, you can copy and paste like that.
Okay, great. What would you say are some of the biggest things you've learned as you've been rolling this out, and what do you think you're going to be trying next to continue to build on what you've been able to do thus far?
Yeah, great question. So definitely our core segment, identifying that has been huge, and learning the biggest challenge is just not having that end date like in a race or something like that. So depending on the campaign, just making sure I choose Giving Tuesday or World Refugee Day, like a day that logically makes sense. I'm going to keep doing that pattern every year to make sure that we're having that in place so people can hit their goals. So coming up, I definitely want to invest some more time in our major donor channel and make sure we get more major donors on board setting up pages. And on my end, that's just me continuing to talk to the major donor reps, make sure they know about the platform, they understand it, make sure they have toolkits they can give to major donors that explain how to use it, and because that's where we're going to see the biggest revenue growth, And then also I'm working on exploring crowdfunding more. So using celebrities that we have relationships with who can maybe go head-to-head in a competition to try to raise funds by a certain date, and seeing how that will work. Working with influencers in the same realm, just to see if you have that competition aspect there, And then the key part to that will be having them get their networks involved instead of World Vision just talking to our networks, so that you really get that buzz going. So yeah, more to come on that.
Terrific. Well, this has been incredibly valuable and some great insights, Kate. I really want to thank you for taking some time to walk us through what you've been working on and what you've been learning at World Vision. Do you have any final thoughts or things that we haven't discussed that you would hope to talk about, or any final thoughts that you'd like to share with folks?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciate being able to share what we've learned in this DIY space, and I'm a big believer in collaboration, and so if any of you out there would like to connect with me, I would welcome it and would love to, we can kind of exchange our pain points and, what's working, what's not. So my email address, if anyone, feel free to email me, it's knare, Knare at worldvision.org. I'd love to hear from you, or if your question didn't get answered today, please feel free to email me.
So, well, thank you, and I'm sure you'll probably be hearing from some folks too. I know that this is an area where a lot of people are looking to talk more and learn from each other, and I certainly encourage everybody to reach out to Kate and to reach out with us too with your experiences. We want to try to share as much as we possibly can with all of you, and be able to try to answer as many questions as possible about this really emerging and important form of DI or of peer-to-peer fundraising. So thank you, Kate, and thank you everybody for joining us today for today's Peer-to-Peer Professional Forum webinar. A reminder before we sign off that there will be a recording available as well as an archive of all of our past webinars on our website at peertopeerforum.com, and we do hope you'll take the survey on your way out the door today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to join us, and we look forward to seeing you all again very soon.